Here with us today, Rubén Lozano Aguilera, coming as the main lead lecturer, I would say, on MIT Trek Croatia. Topic is product management of this exciting MIT Trek. What Rubén does for a living, he's actually a senior product manager at Google, working on Google sustainable mobility. Did I make it right? Yes. So a hot topic, sustainability is hot. Google is always hot. And we are here today to discuss a little bit product management, to hear from you a little bit what's your take on the product management and what's your take on this MIT Trek, and let's say to help to pick up your brain on how can we actually raise up the product community in Croatia. Why not when you have a Googler with us?
Thank you so much for having me.
So no pressure. So your career is really impressive. I was looking at partially at the LinkedIn. So now it's Google. It used to be Amazon. It's hot companies. Yes. Companies the product manager would kill to work for, right? So what do you guys do differently? How do you approach product management in a way that you are more successful than the rest?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I can start with what these companies do similarly.
Yeah.
And I think that something that they both do are two things. And I think that one is long-term. Mm-hmm. Thinking always long-term about how to solve a customer problem. And really being, like, the second part is really being focused on being customer-centric. And trying to not being in love with a solution, but being in love with the problem. And trying to figure out how to solve this problem and making sure that you're solving it, not just in the short term, but in the long term. And that's something that I would say most of these successful tech companies, they continuously to do similarly. Another thing that it's interesting is that I would say that product management, at least in these companies, is converging a little bit. Mm-hmm. I would say that when I joined Google, right after being at Amazon, I could see many differences between the two companies. But as time has passed, I start to see how Google has also been adapting some of Amazon best practices. And when talking to my colleagues from Amazon, they're also seeing how it's also adapting some of the uniqueness of Google.
That's cool. So it means kind of the whole craft is getting more mature.
It is getting more mature. I would say that, there are still some differences between the two companies in the sense that Amazon still makes a difference, for example, between technical product managers and non-technical product mm-hmm. managers, while at Google, everyone is a product manager technical, mostly because most of Google products are very technical. And from the Amazon side, you may have some differences between those. And the other, I would say, big difference is the amount of product managers that mm-hmm. that each company has. Google has a very small ratio, or a ratio of like one product manager with tons of engineers and engineering teams. What at Amazon, there are more product managers, because there's this, or at least from my time there, right, mm-hmm. or maybe it has changed from now, the idea is to be developing these ideas first. As a product manager, you develop the idea, you build this product FAQ, and you're trying to get people to buy into your idea before doing some of the investments, while at Google, still some of the ideas are coming directly from engineering.
Mm-hmm. Okay, engineering as the source of innovation, which makes sense because they are the closest to the technology and can see probably some things that we are not yet seeing.
Correct, and I think that is both from both sides. I would say mm-hmm. that from the Google side, I see many ideas coming directly from engineering, but also directly from products. And now there's this. You can choose, and I think that that's the other. Interesting thing about product is, like, the ideas can come from anywhere.
Exactly.
And we have to accept them, right? Like, from anywhere. Like, it's a designer, it's a writer, it doesn't matter.
So if it's a good idea, it's a good idea. Okay. So what do you say if the craft as itself is kind of maturing and converging, that means that we may come to some kind of broadly accepted definition of what are the critical skills for a product manager or aspiring product manager, so somebody who wants to enter the field. What are those skills that, for example, today, if you are, I don't know, out of university, you would like to enter the field, which skills to build?
Good question. I mean, I do think that there are a couple of skills that are basic. I wouldn't say basic, but like essential.
Mandatory.
For every product manager. As a product manager, the way that I see it is that you are the customer advocate. You are their voice. You are there to represent them and to make sure that the problem is well defined and you are actually solving it, right? So those skills about user understanding, user research, understanding what is actually the problem that you want to solve, those will continue to exist. I do think that there is this additional component about about the use of technology, and how much a product manager should be in the weeds about how technology should work or not. And I think that still depends on the type of product that you are building, the face of the company, the face of the project, right? You may have some products that will continue to be very technical, that are mostly about interaction between machines, where your customer is another machine, right? So I think that from those parts, like the technical skills about will continue to be required.
Apart from technical skills, would you say if you need to be the voice of the customer, if you need to understand the user, I would guess you need to have empathy.
Empathy, I think that empathy, I always say that that's kind of the most important skill. And it's not just empathy towards your customer. That's clearly the more critical, because in most of the time you're not the customer. And even if you feed the profile of the customer, not everyone is just like you.
Of course.
Right? So you have to have empathy for people who are different than you, that have different needs, perceptions, life experiences, but also you have to have empathy for all the people that you're working with. You have to have empathy towards your engineering team, your designers, your communication team.
Your boss.
Exactly, I mean, from upwards, downstreams, and try to understand where are people coming from. If you work with designers, you also need to understand what moves them. With engineering is the same, and having that empathy about like even how you approach a problem, trying to understand it like, oh, this is what moves people. How can you understand that well and bring everyone along? Because at the end, I think that that's the beauty of product management as well. It's not that as a product you are the one who decides where things are going. You have to be a good listener.
Yep.
And to be able to identify like from where the ideas could come from and how can you create an environment that allows for people to feel okay to say, I disagree.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like that idea. I think that this is better. Or I have this intuition. I don't have anything to prove it, but being able to create an environment, and then you can say, there's something there. Maybe we don't know yet, but let's explore it more. Okay,
so you covered, let's say, empathy, soft skills, building team, inclusivity, diversity, whatever is needed to kind of thrive, scientifically proven.
Yeah.
And in product too. We covered the technical skills, but then again, the product is somewhere between the market and the company. It also needs to kind of enable the value exchange, right? So
yes.
For the both sides. So if we look at this business side of the product management and looking back at your education, is education helping you be a good product manager? For example, MBA. Is that an important thing to understand the language of business and to understand the business models in which your company operates in order to be a good product manager. Again, depending on the product that you work on the level of the seniority, let's say, that you have in the product organization, etc. Would you say that your education helped you to be a better product manager?
Yes, it did. And I think that it goes back to that empathy, that empathy to understand, okay, building this product costs money.
Yeah.
Where is this where is this money coming from? How are we going to sustain it? And then you will empathize with the people from finance and the people from that are trying to create a sustainable business. Because at the end, sure, you may have this amazing idea, but if it's not going to be sustainable, the idea will die, right? So how can you create that?
This is, I have to be honest, one of the rare occasions when somebody connected empathy with MBA. So thank you for that. But yes, understanding the languages of different functions in the company.
And the pressures, the pressure that people are going through, right? The same way that you need to have empathy about engineering when they are telling you, you don't understand this, like how long is it going to take, all of the challenges that I'm going to have, all of the risks that I'm going to get. You're like, oh, I see why this decision is difficult for you. Like, let's try to figure out like what are the different options that we have to reduce risk and achieve our goal. It's the same for finance. And
for legal. And for, I don't know, GDPR, DPO, whatever you are dealing with at the moment. Okay. So let's say that product managers are kind of jack of all skills, master of none, almost, except empathy and like user centricity.
Yeah.
So in order to build those skills, again, wondering, can education help? And I will tell you a little story from Croatia. So in Croatia, we have recently two big unicorns coming from this country, both heavily technical, and market is kind of demanding more and more product managers. We are a small market. There are not a lot of people who had opportunity to work for big companies like Google or Amazon and actually learn the skill. So we are in demand of the product managers, and that's why Algebra University actually created the product management course. And that product management course is covering the end-to-end product development lifecycle, let's call it like that, from the idea collection generation up to the go-to-market strategies. So the complete cycle. We built it here. It's now going with the first generation. We are trying to actually tell this whole story of the product development as much hands-on as we can, based on the let's say use cases that and the case that the team is building through all the phases of the product development. Would you join such an education? Do you think it's beneficial? Do you think what should we concentrate on maybe to help building the product community in Croatia and building it to another level?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it is, I mean, education is important. And I would say that one thing that, and this is my personal belief in education, right? You're learning from the experiences of many other people in every other field, right? In some fields, the learning becomes a formula. And that's great. You can just use this formula that someone else developed. But at the end, some other things are not so formulaic. So you need to learn from examples. You need to learn from like failures. You need to learn from many other parts. So I think that being able to extract all of those learnings in a way that you can just, get them faster, it's great. Of course, it's not just the only thing that you can do. You have to experience it. Many times you have to fail by yourself. Like even with the best examples, that's not enough. But if you can learn from the failures from others, that's great. You don't have to do it. You don't have to fail as often. And I think that the other part that you mentioned, that it was in my mind, was this community. The part about the community, because that's, again, another part about this this discipline where you you need to learn from others. Yes, when you are in a team, you're learning from all the people, all your team members, but you also learn from your colleagues, from other PMs who may have solved similar problems or may have not, but they could also have those ideas or insights that you're like, oh, I didn't think about that. I think that's the best part for me. Like I always love when I get some feedback or someone is telling me an insight that I was like, oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, that's something that we are noticing even in this product management course. So people from different industries, from different backgrounds, on the fictional use case, never mind, but solving it together and kind of opening, force multiplying the experience of, for example, the frameworks that our lecturers are offering to them. And it's also a fail-safe environment, right? Mm-hmm. Because you are kind of role-playing, right? Yeah, you are role-playing and testing how the frameworks can work to solve some problem in a very safe environment to try and push yourself in some solutions that maybe, depending on the culture of the company, you may not be able to do in your real life. So, yeah, cool. You know, come and join. See how it looks like. Maybe you can help us improve. Okay, so let's say that the craft is kind of standardizing, which is a great news. Everybody who goes out on LinkedIn can be only confused by all the different product advices coming from different influencers from all the sides. So great news that we may see the standardization of the, let's say, product management craft. What do you think the future brings for PMs? I mean, Gen AI is here.
Yes.
It's not the future anymore.
Yes.
It's running light speed, unlike the rest of us. I mean, obviously, we are all experimenting. We are all trying to learn. Product managers are curious and usually ambitious people. All the empathy aside, it usually goes together. What would you suggest? How would you suggest to PMs to catch up and to join this new train? And how would you imagine PMs in the future? What will change? What will not?
Yeah, the world is clearly changing. AI is making this process go a little bit faster. These processes go a little bit faster. I mean, I do think that there are things as that are not going to change, and the part that I think that is very core to the product management discipline is, again, this customer understanding, right? This empathy towards the customer, this love, or being in love with the problem, not with the solution. I think that those things will continue to stay. The tools that you use to learn about the customer, the tools that you use to solve the problems for the customers are the ones that are changing. And not only the tools are changing, but also the processes that you put around them will need to change. Mm-hmm. The outcome of deterministic technologies are deterministic.
Yeah.
So at some point you can plan for all of those different situations. But with AI, you get to that situation where it's not as deterministic. Mm. Sure, it's faster. Sure, it's more powerful. So what do you do when you don't really know what the outcome is going to be? What are the guardrails that you will need to create? What are the processes that you will need to do? And also, how are you going to be balancing or trading off going fast with doing it well and making sure that you're not moving fast and breaking things, right? I think that that's clearly something that we have to be very careful, because again, there are things that if you break, you cannot rebuild. So how can we get that trade-off? And I think that to answer your first question about, like, if you're a PM and now this new technology, mm-hmm. or like current technology is happening, what should you do? Number one is not to be afraid, and to learn and to experience yourself. The tools are out there. You can just go and play with them, and you will start to see, like, how this technology, like the pros and the cons, and just trying to imagine as well, right? But being curious about how can this solve a different problem? Like, you have a different tool. Like, can this help me solve something that I couldn't have solved before? And I'll give you an example about how I felt about this technology. As part of Google, I'm also an AI coach for different nonprofits as part of google.org. And 5 years ago, we had our first accelerator, like we invited nonprofits and governments from all around the world to apply for this program. And the idea was, how can we use AI for good? And when I joined the program, I was very excited. I was listening to all of the different problems that all these companies and organizations had. But inside, I was like, AI is not going to be able to solve this. Or I will be like, that's a great idea. You don't have the data. Or that's a great idea. You don't have the processes. Like, that's a great idea. You'll need a humongous technical team to actually solve for this. And it was a humbling experience to be there and trying to do the best with the tools that we had at that time.
5 years ago.
5 years ago. This year, we had our first accelerator with Gen AI. But the story was completely different. I was like, oh, you can solve this really easily, to the point that with the organization that I got matched, I'm like, I think that you can just solve this like out of the box. And while I was just listening to the lectures and everything, I'm like, okay, let me just try it myself. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it needs a little bit tuning here and there, but yeah, this can be solved.
But then again, yes, brave new future and brave new world in front of us, definitely. Again, core product management skills, empathy, discovery,
yes,
getting in love with the problem, not with the solution, finding the real problem,
yes,
feeling for it, and solving it, whatever technology is available at that moment. Probably in the coming period, it will be some form of Gen AI that we are not yet aware of, most likely, or AI, however we put it. Nevertheless, you should educate yourself. You should not be afraid to play. Having a place like Algebra University Product Management course, I have to talk about it because I kind of invested a lot of time in building it. That's a good place to play with fellow product managers, to allow yourself to learn some techniques, to fail safe. And actually, one of the important ways how you can learn the craft, which is evolving, but that's cool.
Yeah, everything is evolving.
Okay. Well, thank you, Rubén. So I think we reached our end of time. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. I'm totally looking forward for the MIT Trek and listening to your lectures and opening my mind to new stuff in AI.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. And again, learning from you as well.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.